Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you the editing process for the movie review project. So you should have already watched the part where I showed how to make the movie review recording for yourself. I'm in Premiere already. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. And as always, I'm going to give it a title. So I'm going to call it the name of the movie that I'm reviewing, with the little tag review at the end of it. Make sure you browse to the location where you want to save it. So I'm saving this on my external hard drive in the CM102 folder. I created a folder called, so I've already made a folder here for this. And inside there, I've already put the movie that I recorded, plus I've already gathered a lot of stuff, some images, some movie clips from the movie, and some other photos as well. So all this stuff is already in here. I'm just going to save in the root of this folder here. So there I am, external hard drive, Blazing Saddles folder, and I'm going to leave that there like that. So I'm going to hit OK. And I honestly find some of the easiest ways to get stuff into Premiere. I'm going to open my Finder window here. I'm going to select the folders and video clips that I need. I'm just going to click and drag them right to my project window here, and you'll see it's going to copy everything in. And what's nice about that, it maintains the folder structure. So if you already have things in folders, doing it this way keeps it in the folders. At least that's one of the ways you can do it. By default, you might be in thumbnail view like this. I prefer list view. So I hit the little list view button right here. And what's nice about that is you can twirl down everything. It's a little bit easier. So right here, this review 2, that is my second take, or my 1000th take of me doing a review and also talking about how to do the review. So there are a couple ways that we could do this. One is put the whole thing in the timeline method and just chop it up as I go, which is one way. Or you can hunt through here and just insert the clips as you see fit. Honestly, with one thing, sometimes it's easier to throw the whole thing in there and remove stuff, but I'm going to do what is really the better method, is finding what you need and throwing it down into the timeline. Right now we have no timeline, that's fine. What's great is we're going to use this video here in my source window as the settings for what that timeline is going to look like. And by doing that, we know the settings for the timeline will be correct based on our original file here. So we don't want it to be larger than what our original is, or else we'll get pixelation and whatnot. So once I find the beginning, I go ahead and hit the I for in. This may not be the right end point, but we're going to start there anyways.
This is one of the all-time classic films, written by...
Now, what's a good idea is I closed the script actually. I had the script open a second ago. I have the script open here. I'm going to put it, I happen to have a second monitor I'm going to put it on. It might be a good idea to print it out so you can read along with yourself, just so you know where everything is.
Man, I messed up right at the beginning. 3, 2, 1. This is one of the all-time classic films, written by comedic geniuses and loaded with a cast of brilliant comedic actors. This film uses race in a very blunt way in the backdrop of the Old West. I'm Keith Strahovey. This is a look back at the 1974 Mel Brooks film, Blazing Saddles.
So that was a good take. I'm going to leave a little extra in there because it's going to allow me to edit a little bit later on, because I'm going to add a video clip right there. So I'm going to go ahead. That's my first thing. Now I can do a couple things to get there. I can just click and drag it down here, which is kind of the clunky way, or I can use my shortcuts. So there's nothing in there yet. So if I use an insert or overwrite command, which is one of these two, which is also the comma or the period button. So I'm going to hit insert by hitting the comma. Hey, it's going to make me a liar. Okay, take all that back. Apparently the first time you got to drag it down. And boom, it's created a timeline. It gave it a title. I'm going to rename that title over here real quick. And there we are. We're in the timeline now. Now I'll make sure my playhead goes to the end here. So I'm going to hit the down arrow. Once I'm in the timeline area here, if I hit the down arrow on the keyboard, it's going to go to the next edit point, which at this point is the end of the timeline. So now I'll go back to my source window, make sure I click in there first, and then continue playing.
To the new viewer, are we into this?
So there's my next in and out point. I'm going to hit the comma key again and see down on my timeline, it inserts at the end and then moves the playhead to the end of that clip. So when I do a next insert, it's going to keep going that way. So I'm just going to keep doing in, out, insert, insert, insert. I'm not worried about how good the edit is right now. I just want it to have it so that way I have everything on the timeline. Then I'm going to make it better afterwards once it's all on there and add my other clips and my other graphics and everything once everything's on the timeline. So I'm going to go ahead. You at home, you're going to see me fast forward at this point. I'm just going to pause the recording because you don't need to see me do every single clip. Okay, so there I've gone ahead and get a better freeze frame. There we go. I've made an assembly. This is my assembly edit down here in the timeline without really going through and touching it up yet. So this is where you can go ahead and you zoom in and we're going to start touching things up. And we're also going to start bringing in other things like clips and stuff like that because, you know, to do a movie review, you just don't want you talking the whole time. You need some graphics on the screen and you need some movie clips and things like that. So I have movie clips here. There's a movie clip. Here's a movie clip. Didn't load just yet, but there's another movie clip. So I got different things I want to use. I've already thought about where I want to put those based on my script. So I'm going to start at the beginning.
This is one of the all-time classic films, written by Mel Brooks' film Blazing Saddles.
Okay, right here is where I want to put my first clip in. So I'm actually going to use right here, this is the theme from Blazing Saddles, and I want to just use this part where it comes on the screen. So I'm going to find that first part, hit the I for in. When I'm going to bring this video track in here, whenever you're bringing a track in, it's going to go to where you've identified on your timeline for it to go. And that's on this left column here in your timeline, where the V1 and A1 are labeled. That's where if I do an insert, an overwrite, a drag down, that's where by default it's going to go. When I do this, I want to go on video track 2 because I'm basically putting in B-roll. So you think of your main line, your A line, your A-roll. This is my B-roll. So I want to go with this and go on top of my video clip. It's going to cover the cut. It's going to cover a couple things. But that's where I want it to go. So to make sure that happens, I have to come down here and make sure my A1 and V1 are in the proper track. So now it's labeled on the video track 2 and audio track 2. So when I drag this down here now, you can see that it's going to place on video 2 and audio 2. That's where I want it to be. Now you know something else that's happening is that the video size of what I've inserted there from the movie clip is smaller than my video of me being recorded. So I need to adjust that size. So we can actually do that quite simply. I just double clicked right on it inside the program window here. And now I can grab the corner and drag that out. And I'm going to keep dragging and dragging until it fills the screen like that. It's okay that it has the bars in the top and bottom because it is a different aspect ratio. But that's what it's going to do, and I'm going to click off of that. That setting's going to take effect. Now when we watch.
To the new viewer, there's one thing that will stand out right away about this film.
Now there it is, full screen. Now I started talking again pretty early on that. This actually has a little bit of a soundtrack. I might want to let it play longer. So I need to move all my clips down here. So to do that, I'm going to come over here in my tool selection area, and the second tool underneath your selection tool is called the Track Select Forward tool. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to bring it on the right side of this clip here, and I'm going to click, and now you see it selects every track from that point on. And if I click and drag, I can move this out kind of like that. And now let's take a look.
Saddles. To the new viewer, there's one thing that will stand out.
So there, I did a straight cut. Now if I wanted to add a transition, I'm going to go back to my selection tool. It's always default. I always go back to my selection tool either by clicking on it or using the shortcut V on my keyboard to make sure I have it there. So I did a straight cut for now.
Saddles.
You could also click on the end of that clip and hit Shift D to add a little dissolve.
Saddles.
But right now I'm a fan of the straight cut. I am going to put down here a dissolve on my tracks below just to put a dissolve on the audio itself.
To the new viewer, there's one thing.
I'm actually going to fade out of this one just because that is the audio at the end.
To the new viewer, there's one thing that will stand out right away about this film.
What I don't like is, right before I talk, I make a funny face right there. So I'm going to start maybe a little bit earlier, maybe as I'm taking the breath. It's okay that there's some space. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to use the Ripple Edit tool. So that's your third tool down. It's also the shortcut B. I'm going to bring it over here to the right side. So the track on the right here is where I want it to be longer. So if I click and drag that to the left, you can see where the new start of that is. If you look in the program window on the right side there, that shows me the new start point. I'm going to let go. And that's adjusted every clip down the timeline, so I don't have to do a lot of moving, but it moved everything for me.
This is not odd to you. A movie from a Jewish white comedian? That's a different story. This is why Mel Brooks
So that looks a little bit better. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool, zoom out a little bit.
was smart enough to have Richard Pryor, noted black comedian and actor, be part of his writing staff for the film. Actually, Brooks wanted Pryor to...
So I'm talking about Richard Pryor here. I have a picture of Richard Pryor right here in my project bin, so I want to put that on the track because I'm going to put that as a little OTS. Again, you're going to see it's going to be the wrong size. Let's see where I talk about him first.
Why Mel Brooks was smart enough to have Richard Pryor.
Right there. That's where I talk about him. So let's put him on right there. But that, again, way too big. So I'm going to double click on him, and I can click and move it around. Resize. Okay, he looks like he's yelling at me. That's okay. Now, I want to make sure I stay within my title and action safe area. So I'm going to hit the wrench button over here. I'm going to come down to where it says safe margins and turn this on. You'll see it puts these lines around the border. The inner line is your title safe area. The outer line is your action safe area. So as long as I'm within the action safe area from image, I'm pretty confident, but I actually can bring him a little bit more like that. So now
Mel Brooks was smart enough to have Richard Pryor, noted black comedian and actor, be part of his writing staff for the film. Actually, Brooks wanted Pryor to play the part of Sheriff Bart in the film, but Pryor declined. Have you ever heard of a black sheriff in the Old West?
And then I have a clip for this as well. I'm going to bring this right here. And this is not a very good clip. This is the best one I could find. I didn't rip it myself. And you can see actually there's some spots that we don't want to do. It's very low resolution. One of the reasons why I'm not going to go full screen with it. But I want it to be here. So let's go ahead and put it there. And now, actually, let's back up for a second. We're going to get this out of here. Because what we should do is double click on that and find... Right here is the beginning of the joke that I want to use.
Black sheriff? He's black? And why not? He worked in Blazing Saddles.
So that's where I'm going to use it. I'm going to bring that down here, drop it in, click on it in the program window, double click, move it over, and now I need to crop the right and the bottom here. So make sure it's highlighted in your timeline, and on the left side here in your source area, click on Effects Controls. And it's not here yet. We actually have to add something in here. There's a lot of things in here by default, but what we need is missing. So I'm going to come down to my bottom left window here, click on the double arrows if you don't see it to go to Effects. And I'm just going to search for it in the search area here. I'm going to type in crop. There's my crop effect. Click and drag my crop onto the movie clip there. And now we see I have crop options here. So I can crop from the right. I'm just going to click on the numbers and drag it until it crops in like that. And then on the bottom as well. There's even a little bit on the top I want to get rid of. Not too much. Maybe a little bit more from the bottom. From close, I'm going to type in a number instead so I don't overdo it. So that looks a lot better now. And I can even maybe bring that just a little bigger. I know it's a low resolution. I'm going to use my move forward tool again. And we'll see if I've given myself enough silence. I did.
You ever heard of a black sheriff in the Old West?
A black sheriff? He's black? And why not? He worked in Blazing Saddles.
Citizens of the town are
Ooh. Now I heard right there, I started off, that was a bad cut there. That was in the middle of a word. So again, using my ripple edit tool, I'm going to click and drag backwards just a little bit. Let's see.
2, 1. This
Oh, that was not a good spot right there. So we need to go to here.
1.
Right there. That's where I want to get to.
The citizens of
There we go. And you notice I haven't worried about audio levels or anything like that yet. I'm just popping everything down.
The citizens of the town are portrayed as a small inbred community, all white and all from the same family tree. When they discover their new sheriff is black, they quickly roll up the welcome mat.
Oh, I got a clip for that too. Go back to my project. And this is the clip. It's a pretty good joke right here. Bring that back. Well, I timed that out pretty well. Now you see this clip is actually too large. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and double click on it. I can move it around within the window. And you know what? For this, oops, I double click on the background there. Make sure I am on the clip I want to move. Again, I don't need all of this. The joke is really right here where the welcome sheriff sign is. The band on the right side is not as important. The bars and everything not as important. So again, I'm going to crop. So I'm going to go back to that crop effect. Drag it on. Go to my effects here. And I'm going to crop from the left a little bit. Crop from the right. From the top. And from the bottom. And now I can actually make this a little bigger. Let's see if the joke lands a little better.
The new sheriff is black, they quickly roll up the welcome mat. Sheriff Spart's only friend at the start is a drunk locked up in the sheriff's office, played by Gene Wilder. You know, as a kid,
Okay, I got another thing for this as well.
the only film I had ever seen Gene Wilder in before this was Willy Wonka and the
Uh-oh. I'm moving too fast for the computer for a second. Sorry about that.
You know, as a kid, the only film I had ever seen Gene Wilder in before this was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Man, I love that movie. The on-screen chemistry between Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little is one of the strongest parts of this film. They deliver most of the punchlines, all with the and Cleavon Little.
Got a graphic for that too. I'm going to plop that in right after.
This was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Man, I love that movie.
That was a little bit too long of a pause there. Let's zoom in a little bit.
Man, I love that movie.
I'm going to go back just right before that breath. Let's shorten that up and let's make a cut. So I'm going to hold the C, press the C key for the blade tool, make a cut there, and then go back to my ripple edit tool with the B. I'm going to bring that in and let that, boom, move right there. Go back to my selection tool, move that image over. I'm going to let this play as a full screen now. Still a little too big, so I'm going to resize it a little bit.
Man, I love that movie. The on-screen chemistry between Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little is one of the strongest parts of this film. They deliver most of the punchlines, all with a straight face and an occasional wink to the audience. And a cast full of character actors, they are the leading roles that this film revolves around. At first, the film focuses on the white bread.
Now I have a movie clip I want to insert here, so I'm going to shorten this up. I'm going to make a cut here. Again, go my move forward tool. I'm just going to move all this forward for a second. Thanks, autosave. And here I have one last movie clip I want to plop in.
Well, maybe a couple of years ago I could have shown you something, but...
Let's find the end of the joke.
You was just pulling my lariat.
There's my out point right there. I'm going to drop this in and move all these forward still. And here we go.
And an occasional wink to the audience.
Again, we need to resize this so it fits in the frame correctly. Now I'm doing it the click and drag method. You could actually go into your effects tab and move this around, but I find this a little bit easier sometimes. I like to use the effects tab here in the source window when I need to be very precise about things. If I was doing a bunch of these, I want them all the numbers to match up and whatnot, but for this one, I'm okay with doing it how I am right now.
Audience.
So there's our base edit there. Now we need to add some other graphical elements as well. We need a little title and we need a lower third for ourselves to identify who we are. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to zoom in, move my playhead to the 5-second mark. We'll see how this looks. Move everything there, again by using my track select forward tool. And I want to put a title right here. That first 5 seconds. So to do titling, I'm going to go up and I'm going to go to my graphics tab at the top of the screen here. And now there are a bunch of preset titles inside of here. I could type one in manually too. I kind of like using these presets though, just because they have some effects built into them instead of having to build stuff from scratch. I always like the film title one. It's a little over the top, but we'll use it anyways. So I'm going to drag this down. I'm still going to put it in V2. And here we go. Here's our title. So to edit this, I can just come up in here and click on it. And now, when I double click in this area, I can now edit that. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a title. Maybe I'll do something like that. Oops. I did not mean to make another text area. So give it some sort of title. Now I can see what that looks like.
This is one of the...
And now on the second part after my little intro, I want to put a lower third here as well. So I'm going to go back to my browse. I'm going to type in lower third in my search bar so I only get the lower third stuff. And I should get the same one that goes with the lower third I used, or the title that I used, because I used the film look for the title, so I want to stay consistent. I'm going to use the lower third 2 line here. I'm going to bring it right here. And again, I just double click on here, put my name in there, double click down here, and we'll say Professor of Media. We'll just leave it at that.
Stand out right away about this film and maybe question whether they should even be watching it. That is the very casual...
There we go. And now I can go back to our editing sequence. Again, there's some things I said I didn't look at before. My audio is all pretty consistent.
Film uses race in a very
You can see like this audio is kind of low. A couple of ways I can adjust this. One, if I expand this, I always get the volume line here where I can click and drag. That's kind of clunky. I don't always like that. I like to look to see where the volume is. See, it's max peaking -18. So if I wanted to get it to -6, I can just right click on this, go to audio gain, and tell it adjust audio by, and say, let's see, do the math, blah, blah, blah. I want to get from there to there. We're going to go 10. And that's going to increase the volume. And I've increased it. So that's one way you can be doing that, and that's actually kind of one of my preferred ways. So again, I'm going to do that here. Right click, audio gain, adjust gain level by 10 dB.
This is one of the all-time classic films.
Now, you could also, if you wanted to, add some music at the beginning for your title sequence. But really the requirements of this, I need to have a title, you need to have a lower third, we need to have some over-the-shoulder graphics, we also need to have some full screen video. So I've covered all those bases with this, and it's 4.5 minutes long. It's actually right 4.5 minutes on the dot, just about, which is pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead, do Command S, always save before I export. Make sure I'm clicked on the program, the timeline here. Go up to my file, export media. I'm going to change the format to go to H.264. I'm going to leave that one. Click on the output name and navigate to your folder. So I'm actually inside my Blazing Saddles folder right now. Title it what you want so you remember it, and then hit the export. And then once it's done, upload it to YouTube and get it to your website. And that is how you're going to do your project. Good luck.